Logan and I have been talking about trying to remember exactly when it was that we came to the adult ed session. I think it was about 2 years ago. And now let me tell you that it's just like light years ago, uh, not just in the COVID era, but certainly in the Reach Riverside era. Just so much has happened. So what Logan is going to show you, some of it will be familiar to you, but there's just so much more that has happened. And Logan, let me just tell you that looking at my screen, I see that what you have in front of you are some of the most dedicated members of Westminster in terms of community outreach. And so I know they'll be interested to hear what you got to say. So Logan, it's all yours.
Thanks, Charlie. And I know you are always emphasizing our need and efforts in fundraising. So I thought you were going to say on the screen, we have some of the wealthiest individuals in Delaware. That would have been music to my ears. But no. In all seriousness, thank you guys. And I love being around you, even through this virtual format, because the joy that you all have and bring is just infectious. So thank you for being here tonight. Charlie, I believe you would like me to show our impact video from the year first, because some people might be still logging on in the next few minutes. So I'd be happy to do that following your lead.
Good, that's fine. You got it.
Okay. So everyone, this is about a 4-minute video. It just highlights some of the efforts that took place in our world in 2020. So enjoy.
The work group, the volunteers, the supporters, the donors, the community residents are working to deal in one of the most challenging times in our country.
If we're ever going to make a real difference in how we address racial inequalities in the United States, Reach Riverside, the work around Riverside is some of the most important in our whole country.
The organization has credibility citywide. It's got credibility among foundations and corporations and governments. We just have a strong sense that this is going to be a successful endeavor.
Children and sort of teens and young adults of color are not getting a fair shot in our county, in our city, in our state, in our country. And this is an institution where we work to make society a little more equal.
These are our children, right? These are the children that we see in our hospital. These are the children in our community. These are our children, and we must do more.
If we can make a lasting difference in Riverside, we can show that we can actually make a lasting difference in intergenerational poverty that is highly correlated with race.
We're in a pandemic. We also have faced a racial reckoning. And so to see this community, to see Reach Riverside come together and say, we're not gonna just lament and feel bad about the situation. We're gonna go into action. From their health, to their education, to the development of this area and building wealth and home ownership. It is a past, present, and future that will create a legacy for all of us.
I'm Logan Herring, CEO of the Warehouse Reach Riverside and Kingswood Community Center, what we affectionately call ourselves the Work Group. The impact of our work in 2020 has been tremendous. We distributed over $280,000 collectively to all of the families in the public housing community of Riverside. We distribute 342 Chromebooks, over 10,000 meals, providing household supplies, assisting folks get signed up for the census. Our team, our staff, our board members, our volunteers, our partners, everybody really stepped up to the call.
We had to adjust our delivery throughout the year. Certainly wanted to still have an impact even in face of COVID. So we were finding different ways to be able to continue to have an impact of our community, even though the center wasn't physically open.
It's just so amazing because there's something about empowering and uplifting a community through food. I think we're going to start a movement of people taking back their power to grow and really cultivate their bodies in a different way.
My team has gone beyond what I expected. I try to get them to focus on where we are at this moment and the things that we could do to help the children become the great people we know they can.
We are going to create a cradle to college education system to serve the kids, plus all the health and wellness facilities that are necessary to make for a robust neighborhood. Taking people out of an impoverished situation and moving them into a thriving mixed income environment, you say, I mean, that's a no-brainer.
We know concentrated poverty does not work. Historically, that is what public housing has done. What we're doing here is it's a microcosm of what we're trying to fix in the nation as a whole.
Teen Warehouse is a place of refuge for all of our children. When you have the President-elect of the United States come visit the Teen Warehouse, that matters. That tells our children that you are the most important individuals in the nation. And that's the message that we need to be sending to our babies.
My passion is to give back to them so they can have more than what I had, and they can see, wow, Miss Melody, you grew up in Southbridge, you have a master's degree, how did you do this? Because I want them to know that they can do it too.
So you name it, we did it. Virtual programming, access to healthcare, access to resources, access to basic needs. That's what we did, and that's what we're continuing to do. The mission at Reach Riverside is to eliminate the barriers of structural racism, identify what the oppression and those barriers have been over time, and systematically break them down, and at the same time, build our community up. And that's what we're doing with the work group, the Warehouse Reach Riverside and Kingswood Community Center. So it looks like we did get some people to join us during the video. Charlie, anything you want to say before I get into the presentation?
I don't think so, Logan. I think everybody wants to hear from you. So why don't you take it away?
All right. And I know that some of this might be repetitive. It has been some time. And as you can tell, there has been some significant progress. So I'll get right into it. Let me share my screen again. All right. So again, my name is Logan Herring. I am the CEO of the Warehouse Reach Riverside and Kingswood Community Center. You'll hear us refer to ourselves collectively as the work group, WRK. Our work is focused on the Riverside neighborhood of Wilmington, Delaware, and in Northeast Wilmington. Our census tract is 30.02, which is this area here. Which goes from the river all the way up into, including Kingswood Community Center, the public housing site, and the East Side Charter School. Our borders are Northeast Boulevard or Governor Prince and the Amtrak Northeast Corridor as well. Across Northeast Boulevard is another major mixed income community that was built not too long ago called the Village of Eastlake. And then we have a major park system with the Brown, Burton, Winchester Park, and another mixed income community of Speakman Place. So the history of Riverside is actually public housing that was built for white veterans coming back from war. The Southbridge public housing community was built for Black veterans coming back from war. During the time of this country, known as redlining and housing segregation, whites were able to move into the suburbs and build generational wealth through home equity, and Blacks were relegated to communities like Riverside. Then the crack epidemic hit communities of color extremely hard, and 1 in 4 African-American males between the ages of 20 and 29 were either locked up or on parole. And public housing policies stated that if you were imprisoned, you could no longer come back and live in public housing. So that leaves us with a community of 87% of the households being led by single women. Originally, there were about 500 units built. There are a little less than 300 units now. And we have a connection with Joe Biden. If you look at the picture down here to the right, this is that mixed income community of Village of Eastlake that I was referring to earlier. That community was built about 10 years ago, mixed income community. And prior to the revitalization of that community, way back in the day, Joe Biden served as a lifeguard at the pool in this neighborhood. About 3 years ago, they renovated and dedicated the pool in his honor. It's called the Joseph R. Biden Aquatic Center. And we had the luxury of taking our summer camp over to be a part of that ceremony. He took a picture with us. One thing about this project, this revitalization project that happened in Village of Eastlake, is that like most redevelopment projects, you have to demolish the old homes first and then build the new ones on top of where the old ones used to sit. Our project is unlike that, and I'll get into that a little bit later. One last reference to Joe Biden and the work that we're doing. Not only did he visit with us on election day, but a few years ago, after I had assumed leadership at Kingswood Community Center, he donated $160,000 of his personal money to help us at a time when we were much in need. So the history of Kingswood Community Center, we were established in 1946 at the Kingswood United Methodist Church. The church members really just wanted to provide constructive after-school programming for the youth in the community. They did that for about 10 years, then got the philanthropic community involved and built the building that we currently have today, which is a 17,000 square foot facility sitting on 12 acres of land that we own, which includes 3 baseball fields, 3 basketball courts, and 2 tennis courts. We are known, we like to say, for providing services from the cradle to the cane. We don't like to put our seniors in the ground too early. We have had a history of bringing the community together around athletic rivalries. But about 6 years ago, Kingswood was about to close its doors, given some mismanagement by previous leadership. The staff, the employees, they had missed payroll, and it was really a dark time. And at that point, I was asked to come and take over the leadership as the interim executive director in the beginning of 2016. I was set forth with a mission to create sustainability around the organization, reestablish relationships, and really revitalize the spirit of Kingswood, which had been the spirit of the community for so long before doing any physical revitalizations. Then we started having conversations with Charlie about, a project that he had read about and visited called Purpose-Built Communities. And Charlie, like I said, he visited, he saw a vision for the Riverside community, and I'm happy to be a part of executing on that vision. And Charlie, I don't know if you want to speak about what you saw and what you envision for Riverside in the future.
Well, I guess I will. I mean, my connection with this project dates to my connection with Eastside Charter all the way back to 2005. I was chairman of the board for almost 10 years, I guess. And it was a frustrating experience because we'd have some success, but then you'd fall backwards. And you began to realize that no matter how good an educational environment you create for the kids for about 6 hours a day, if they're going back home to unsafe neighborhoods, families struggling with all the trauma that poverty brings, that you're just not going to make much success. And so I read about, at the end of 2014, I guess, I read about this project down in Atlanta, which is now called Purpose-Built Communities, where they had taken a very similar situation to what we have, dealing with a public housing project that was, as Logan will tell you, it's called Little Vietnam. It was a terrible place. And they had completely turned it around. And it was an education-focused, holistic neighborhood revitalization. Education is really the driver. And the elements, in addition to education, are having a critical mass of housing that you can populate with mixed income, not concentrated poverty, but mixed income, and health and wellness. And you have to have a very strong community group to kind of oversee the entire project. And when I learned about what they had done down in Atlanta, I could see that we had the infrastructure already in place in Wilmington to really make this go, because we had the housing with the Wilmington Housing Authority at 300 units. We had Eastside Charter School and a board that was totally motivated to do something like this. And we had a very high level group of people that Logan is going to tell you more about, who were already working with Kingswood Community Center. It was Tony Allen, Margaret Rose Henry, Gary Stockbridge, Dave Sisko, others. And those people have become, they were the founding directors of Reach Riverside Development Corporation, which is the community quarterback of this effort in the purpose-built parlance. So when I went down there, I called Mike Brzezicki to go with me because I knew he'd be interested, and he got Rob Buccini, and we were all blown away by what they'd accomplished. And we came back and said, we got to bring this to Delaware. Well, we had some political headwinds to overcome, and because the Wilmington Housing Authority administration was simply just not interested in what we were proposing. So when I learned that the mayor of the city of Wilmington controls the Wilmington Housing Authority, and that was about the time that Mike was thinking about running for mayor of the city, and the mayor controls it by appointing 7 of the 9 commissioners. I thought, well, the best thing I can do for this project is to get Mike elected mayor. So it took us about 18 months to get that happened. And then after that happened, he did appoint new commissioners, and we got the Wilmington Housing Authority on board. So we had the politics all lined up. And then shortly after that, or just about the same time, I guess, I forget chronologically exactly how things happened, Logan was coming on board with some other great talent that he had recruited. And he's now going to tell you more about what's happened since then.
Thanks, Charlie. So let me get back to the neighborhood that Charlie saw, and he saw it after the fact. But as he mentioned, this neighborhood's nickname in 1995 was Little Vietnam, given the $35 million drug trade, the uninhabitable homes, the lack of high school or the minimal high school graduation rate, and only 13% of the adults working. But that was then, and this is the community that Charlie visited, which is a thriving mixed income community of where $400 million plus of investment have gone into the uplift of that and advancement of that community. So if we look statistically at where we are in Riverside today, we're pretty much on par with where Little Vietnam was in 1995. We lead the entire city of Wilmington with 70% of our children living in poverty in our census tract. We have a median household income of less than $10,000. And as I stated earlier, 87% of our households are led by single women. If you look at this map below, it's a heat map of where resources are currently located throughout the city of Wilmington. And you can see a high concentration of poverty with a low amount of resources is not the equation for success. As a matter of fact, one of the resources that's in our neighborhoods is the prison. And then we look at the effect of childhood poverty every year on America, and it costs America close to $500 billion when you look at healthcare and the cost of crime and the reduction of economic output. But what we've noticed in, excuse me, in the neighborhood outside of Atlanta, the East Lake neighborhood, is that not only has investment gone into the housing, but that has given this community the opportunity to participate in the state's economy and the city's economy, and not just be a community that drains the economy. You see a 90% reduction in crime, you see increase in employment, increase in reading proficiency. So it's a holistic approach that has holistic results. So this is a map of all of the purpose-built communities that are in the country right now. There are currently only 28, and we were the 19th to join at the end of 2018. The blue stars are those that are in the network. The red dots are those that are trying to get into the network. There are 2 major benefits of being a network member. One, we get a 10-year term of free technical assistance from Purpose Built, who has an expert staff that focuses on place-based holistic revitalization. The second thing is we are part of this great network, which we like to call our community of practice. So we can share best practices with one another that helps us to elevate our respective roles in our neighborhoods and really allows us to accelerate our efforts respectively as well. Purpose Built can provide this free technical assistance because they're funded by 3 billionaires, one of them being Warren Buffett. The model is quite simple. It's a 3-pronged approach: high quality mixed income housing, cradle to college and career pipeline, and community health and wellness, all for a defined neighborhood, which is Riverside, and all led by Community Quarterback Organization, which is a separate nonprofit that needs to be set up to coordinate these efforts. And that's what we call Reach Riverside, which stands for Redevelopment, Education, and Community Health. The A just isn't a place filler for the word and, it's actually an operating philosophy. We like to call it our Thanksgiving Day model. So at Thanksgiving, my family, everyone brings the dish that they make the best. Some people need to stay away from certain dishes. And that's how we approach this work on a daily basis. We ask our partners to bring the best dish to the table. What do you focus on? What is your specialty? And if you bring that to the table, like the end of my Thanksgiving, we'll have plenty of leftovers. So it's really that abundance theory versus a scarcity mentality. To speak to that, we have a memorandum of understanding between 4 partners: Kingswood Community Center, Wilmington Housing Authority, Eastside Charter School, and Reach Riverside. And we believe we're tailor-made for a purpose-built community the same way Charlie recognized that years ago. We have Kingswood, which has been the epicenter for social services and human services throughout the last 75 years. You have the Housing Authority right next door to Kingswood with 25 acres of land and a critical mass of housing. And then you have the educational pillar of Eastside Charter School for the K-8. That's 43 acres of land with 3 parcels contiguous to one another. This is a picture of our 3D master plan. What you see here, again, are close to 600 mixed income homes. You also see the new state-of-the-art Kingswood Community Center that we plan to build in the next few years. This ball field was our original vision, but we actually are getting away from this and we want to put more home ownership units on this property. And then the city of Wilmington has agreed to donate a piece of land here that we want to convert to a local grocery. So I talked earlier about our ability to be able to build homes and not have to displace anyone. Logistically, we are currently just started phase 1, and we were building phase 2. Phase 1 and 2 will be built over the next 3 years. Collectively, that will be 141 homes. 1, 2, and 3 is all currently vacant land. So we can build about 200 plus homes on vacant land first, and then be able to move the existing families into those homes and then begin to demolish the old homes. At the end of the day, Charlie talked about not being able to really move the needle at Eastside Charter School because you have these unsafe and unstable, families and the neighborhood. And that's something that we really want to change: the infrastructure, the amenities, the way, the landscaping, bike lanes, wider sidewalks. These are all things that we're thinking of. And when I say we, it isn't just me and Charlie and board members of staff. It's a collective we. The community has been involved through all of this for the last few years. Here is a picture of a property down in Annapolis, Maryland, Obery Court, where we actually took some of our residents down to see this property. This is the before and this is the after. Our master developer, Penrose, developed this site, and they also developed this site here, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. So they're very capable. Our first pillar, we talk about redevelopment. Again, 600 units. We have just begun construction on the first 74 units. Will be 59 affordable rental units and 15 market rate. The second pillar talked about the cradle to college and career pipeline, with the education starting at Kingswood for the birth to pre-K, and then Eastside Charter School for the K-8. The only thing we don't have in the neighborhood at the moment is a high school, but we do have the warehouse, which I'll speak about in length shortly, which is supporting our teams in an after-school setting. And then lastly, we have our community health pillar. We've made mention to this new 70,000 square foot, $30 million facility, the new Kingswood Community Center that we plan to build and are currently fundraising for. The warehouse, again, which I'll talk about in a little bit, where our president has visited with us on election day, talked about building a small grocery and other neighborhood amenities that support the empowerment and uplifting of our community, and then making sure we have those resident support services and healthy connections. I just got an encouraging email today. We will be setting up a community health hub at the existing Kingswood Community Center within the next few months, which will provide primary care access to our entire community right there at the community center for every single age, from our youngest to our oldest. So you heard me say before that we engage the community in everything we do. That's master planning, that's we have community members that are on our board. This is a picture of when we went to visit Obery Court. And we understood that we could not do a holistic revitalization in Wilmington, which was dubbed Murder Town, USA a few years ago because of the high violence rates amongst our youth. We knew we had to do something specific for that part of the population. Here are 2 examples of youth that have come out of Riverside recently. Jakai Bland to the left just recently graduated from Delaware State University with a history degree, and he is now a teacher in Baltimore, Maryland. During his time at Delaware State University, he became homeless, and our advisory board member, Tony Allen, specifically helped this young man to stay in school and get housing so he could be a success story out of Riverside. Deontay Martin to the right He's in his senior year at the Williamson School of Trades. He is an academic All-American on the baseball team, and he is one of the lead carpenters, or was one of the lead carpenters this summer on the new athletic complex at the University of Delaware. Two shining stars and examples of what is possible out of the Riverside neighborhood, and any neighborhood for that matter, but too often they are the anomaly and not the norm. And we believe in making sure that they are the norm, which is why we created the Warehouse, whose tagline is "For Teens by Teens." The vision is a collaborative one-stop teen center driven by outcomes, Gatorade partnership, and relentless innovation. I throw Gatorade in there as a former athlete and now a high school coach of soccer and basketball. When I think of Gatorade, I think of a drink that rejuvenates you and gives you that energy. And when we thought about the Warehouse, we wanted this space to have that same effect on our teens when they walk into the building. And one reason why it is having that effect on our teens is because they helped create it. They worked with an architect to design the space. They picked out the furniture, the color schemes. They pick out the programs and services that they feel they need. They evaluate the adult staff at the Warehouse to make sure that they're getting everything out of this initiative that they possibly can. All the work that we do at the Warehouse is based upon 5 pillars of success, with the same REACH acronym, just a little bit different, focused on teens: recreation, education, arts, career, and health, making sure that when they graduate high school, they are well-rounded individuals. As a matter of fact, I'm just speaking of 2 of our teens who have been working with us for the past almost 3 years now. Anaya Patterson, who is our co-chair of the board of the Warehouse, has applied to, I believe, over 15 colleges. She's been accepted to a couple already. Senator Coons has written a recommendation letter for all of these colleges. And she's already secured, I believe, over $75,000 in scholarships. Jameer Hargraves has a 4.25 GPA. He started his own clothing line, and he just recently interviewed for Harvard last week. This is what's possible when our teens have just a little bit of support and love in their lives. So the plan is a dynamic space that keeps teens engaged. We cross-pollinate programs and services. We believe in partnerships and not creating programs. So we have 150 partners that help us to deliver on our mission at the Warehouse. And again, it's teen defined, for teens, by teens. We have a number of, like I said, partners working with us. And just here are some of, or a handful. Delaware State University is our research partner around the revitalization and the Warehouse. And they are physically located inside the Warehouse, where they've created an office for, it's called the Center for Neighborhood Revitalization Research. Christiana Care is helping us with all of our health needs with the entire revitalization. But more specifically at the Warehouse, we are planning to launch a 2,000 square foot health and wellness center for our teens to address their mental, behavioral health needs, and also reproductive health needs. DHSS is providing us with funding to employ our teens and also case management. The University of Delaware and Delmarva are partnering on 3 green projects. One, which is an agriculture pod, where we are beginning to do vertical farming in a shipping container to produce about 1.5 acres full of crops year round. We're also putting solar panels on the roof. And then the third project we have is an electric bus using vehicle to grid technology, which when the bus is charging overnight, it's actually powering the grid. Some other organizations working with this, Capital One donated the $3.6 million building to us for this initiative. The state of Delaware has granted Reach Riverside over the past 3 years, $3 million. And when we went to present this to Capital One, Mayor Perzicki and Thayer DuPont went with us. We understood we had a punch above our weight class, so we took some heavy hitters with us. This is the building in its former state, a 43,000 square foot, 2-floor facility sitting on 2 acres of land. The piece of land in front of it is now owned by Habitat for Humanity, and we're currently negotiating a land swap with some of Kingswood's land so we could build a recreational site here and then do the townhomes that they envision doing on this site on Kingswood's land. So when the people, those future homeowners turn the key for the first time, they actually have an asset that's going to be providing some equity, which will allow them to build a generational wealth that has been denied for them for so long. Again, the Warehouse project's a little different than Reach Riverside and Kingswood because it focuses on the entire city of Wilmington, because we understand that the need for our teens in Wilmington goes beyond just the Riverside neighborhood. We have an open floor plan to the right. Again, we've invested $3 million into this facility to make sure it is the top-notch, state-of-the-art facility where every team wants to come and again, drink that Gatorade. On the left, we have some of our resident partners. And on the second floor, we have Kingswood Academy, which is an alternative school that we're responsible for that serves 7th to 12th graders who are expelled from their traditional high school, but would like to continue that learning. In 2020, Kingswood Academy had a 100% graduation rate for that specific population. So we're really proud of what we do at Kingswood Academy. So I talked earlier about the correctional institution that's in our neighborhood. And if you're a taxpayer, you help to fund these things, whether you like it or not. But what we really need is to redirect the support for the warehouse and Reach Riverside and Kingswood Community Center so we can begin to make these correctional institutions obsolete. So just to break it all down, just to be, crystal clear that we do have 3 separate nonprofits. Reach Riverside serves as the managing partner, and the warehouse and Kingswood are our community centers, but more specific, our direct service entities. Each organization can stand on its own, but we believe we're much more impactful when we work together, and that's why we call ourselves the work group. Our collective mission is to empower the community to reach its full potential by eliminating the barriers of structural racism and revolutionizing teen engagement. We are currently in the throes of a $47 million capital campaign. The entire project is estimated at over $250 million when you include the housing, but Reach Riverside is really responsible for this blue slice of the pie, which is the warehouse fundraising with the building and the renovations. The first 3 phases of housing, Reach Riverside is committed to doing $1 million for each phase. The new Kingswood Community Center will be about a $30 million project, but we believe we'll receive about $6 million from new market tax credits. And then we have to raise close to $10 million or over $10 million to continue to operate our nonprofits. In 2020, as we all know, we were all facing this global pandemic. And I'm sure you heard in the news and other media outlets how it has been affecting communities of color disproportionately hard. So in 2020, we put our capital campaign fundraising needs to the side, and we decided to step up and start a relief fund for our Riverside community because everyone agrees we're going to have this great, fantastic, thriving community in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. But it does us no good if through the next 5, 10 to 15 months, our community doesn't even survive it. So our Riverside Relief Fund, the goal was really to provide immediate financial relief, bring all of our partners to the table to bring additional resources, and really help our community to be resilient and accelerate itself out of this crisis. The goal was to raise enough money to distribute $250 to each of the families in our neighborhood, set up COVID screening and testing to make sure that they know their status and aren't, infecting each other, and to address food insecurities and the digital divide. And very pleased to announce that we raised close to $500,000 and distributed $285,000 of direct cash to our families in the neighborhood. Our COVID positive test rate went from 21% down to 13%. We distributed over 400 Chromebooks and have just agreed to do another 600. We signed folks up for a GED, Department of Labor programming. We distributed 15,000 meals. And one thing we're really proud of is that we moved our census count rate from less than 60% to over 84%, which will be a over $6 million return on federal funding to the state of Delaware. The last thing I would like to discuss is that because of the Riverside Relief Fund and the connections and the trust that we built in the community during this unprecedented time, it really allowed us to transition into a new initiative, which is economic mobility. And it's called Empower. Economic mobility places ownership within everyone's reach. And Empower is really an economic mobility tailored plan for each individual family to provide coaching, navigation, resource navigation, and all resources that they need to help them climb that economic mobility ladder to eventually market rate rental and home ownership in the very same neighborhood. The goal is self-sufficiency. The goal is all of our community to thrive. And we have a desired mixed income breakdown of our community, 1/3 market rate, 1/3 about a 60% or so AMI, which is average median income, and then 1/3 below 30%. Well, right now, all of our community is below 30% with less than an average median income of $10,000. And we said, well, we can go out to the broader community and bring that mixed income population in, or we can work from within and empower our community to reach that desired mixed income. And we preferred the latter, not the former. So how can you help? We have a number of committees that are cross-pollinated by all of our board members and stakeholders. But as I stated earlier, our table and seats are always open. Just tell us which dish you like to bring to the table. Again, thank you for your time. And at this point, we can open the floor up for questions or comments that Charlie and I can try to address.
I have a question. I had read in a newsletter, I think it was from Sinair, about their investment in the whole REACH program. Can you talk about what that is going to mean?
Yeah, Charlie, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll try to. The housing depends heavily on low-income housing tax credits, which are awarded by a competitive process through the state. And interestingly enough, so we have these tax credits for phase one, and we have also been awarded these tax credits for phase two, which is the first time ever in Delaware history that a multi-phase project has been offered in back-to-back, has been awarded in back-to-back years. Well, those tax credits are syndicated to investors in the community. Sinair is a syndicator, and Sinair may also have been involved in bringing in sort of conventional debt financing to the phase one housing. So that's Sinair's participation in the project thus far. The new market tax credits that Logan mentioned a little while ago that we expect to use for the Kingswood Community Center, Sinair is one of the providers of new market tax credits that we are talking to, and we hope that they will be involved at that level there too. Marlis, you got to unmute.
I'm not familiar enough with the geography, but where is Urban Promise in regard to your location? And is there any kind of a partnership that would include Urban Promise?
Yep, I'll show you. Let me go back to the beginning. My computer's lagging. So Urban Promise is right here, and they're right in the middle of the Village of Eastlake neighborhood. So they're right across the street, and we are partnering with them. Recently, even during the pandemic, they used the warehouse as a testing site at the beginning of the school year. And we're trying to figure out other ways in like an after-school setting we can support them and partner with them. So they are a partner of the warehouse.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And Marlis, if you don't know, Eastside Charter, when it was founded in the late 1990s, its original location was where Urban Promise is right now. Okay, you Westminsterites, you're usually peppering people with questions at the education hour. So
it's late.
I'll throw one more out there.
It's late. Yeah.
In terms of the warehouse, and I may be confusing things, but it's operating in one location now, but the new one is being built. And so what does that look like in terms of how much is being done now versus what will be able to be accommodated once it goes into the new facility? And when will that be? What does that transition look like?
All right, yeah, let me provide a little bit of clarity. So we have two physical sites. We have the old Kingswood Community Center, which is still operating. And Kingswood has an early learning academy and a senior center. And then the warehouse is our new facility that focuses specifically on teens. And the warehouse is brand new, so there will not be a new warehouse built. There will be a new Kingswood Community Center built, which is behind me, and I'll actually make myself disappear so you can see it. And this is a state-of-the-art 70,000 square foot, $30 million facility that we are currently fundraising for now. Does that help provide a little bit of clarity?
Yeah, thank you. That was
It's a lot of moving parts. Sometimes I get confused myself.
right. So the warehouse is done and in its place.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. And Charlie will tell you, we offer, for those who feel that it's safe enough for you to come out, we do offer what we call our VIP mask and glove tour. So if any of you would like to come out and tour the warehouse, we encourage you to do so. We follow all of the safety guidelines. You'll check your temperature when you come in and so forth. And we can keep those numbers as small as possible as we need to. But we love showing people our facility. It's one thing to see pictures of it, but when you walk through it, there aren't many facilities like this around, particularly not for teens in the nonprofit space. It really is something to see in person.
Mary Kay and Dick?
I am impressed with the way you can develop acronyms out of the simplest ideas and make a powerful story out of what you're doing. I have two questions, I guess. One is, how do the communities around you, how are they reacting to what they see happening? Are they supportive, encouraging, a little jealous? What's your sense?
So when you say communities, I actually, as you ended that question, I was able to kind of infer, regardless of who it is, whether it's the residents, other nonprofits, the corporate sector, just about anybody, we have been extremely intentional about opening our doors, and not just opening them, but deliberate about reaching out, pun intended, and bringing folks in. So for the warehouse, for example, we have 150 partners. That doesn't happen by accident. As a matter of fact, as we were doing the renovations, we started to partner before we had a physical location, and we provided additional capacity and support for nonprofits that had their own brick and mortar, and helped them with transportation and coordination and logistics to show them that, look, we're not trying to take your teams. We are in this together. And as a matter of fact, we created an app called RecDesk that helps us manage everyone's schedule around the city, everyone's activities, because we understand we can't do everything in the warehouse. Someone asked me a long time ago, what does success look like at the warehouse? And I said, well, I can tell you what success doesn't look like. Success does not look like 500 teams at the warehouse at one time. Success looks like 150 teams at the warehouse and 350 at the partners around the city. Another example is Brown Boys and Girls Club. We have created it so if you have a membership at Brown, you have a membership at the warehouse and vice versa. And we don't just operate like that at the warehouse. We operate the same way at Kingswood Community Center and Reach Riverside as a whole. I said, it's our Thanksgiving Day model. Everyone is at the table. We just have to make sure that everyone's not trying to do everything for everybody. Let's spread it apart, spread the love, and have plenty of leftovers at the end.
Terrific.
And you had another question?
Do you still have the mayor on your side?
I don't know, Charlie. Do we still have the mayor on our side? He's his neighbor. I can tell you, I did get word he asked for a warehouse mask yesterday, so I suppose so.
Well, listen, this project would not have happened without Mike Brzezicki. Just get that straight. Without the mayor of the city of Wilmington appointing commissioners to the Wilmington Housing Authority who were interested in working on this project would not have happened. He has committed to us $1 million from the city for this year. He's been terribly supportive.
And that video that we showed earlier, that was recorded in, I think, maybe November. So as of 3 months, he publicly is endorsing this.
That's terrific.
Dick, let me go back to your question about how the communities around feeling, because one of the, I guess, most important things that Purpose-Built Communities has told us from the very beginning is that in order for these kinds of projects to be successful, you have to have the support of the local residents. And dealing with the local residents in Riverside has been a bit of a challenge, partly because they have been promised things like something like this for many, many years, and nothing has ever happened, So when the relief fund was created, another one of Logan's great ideas. One of the greatest things that came out of that for us is that because in order to, we were handing out $250 a month to, I guess, about 80% of the total families. In order to get the $250, they had to come to Kingswood and sign up. And when they came to sign up, we got their contact information. And we didn't really have that before. We got them to sign up for the census. We got them to register to vote. But more importantly, because of not just the cash, but also the Chromebooks and the other things that, sort of went along with what we were doing, we developed a great deal of trust with the community. And as Dave Ford, our chief financial strategist, loves to say, you can't move any faster than at the speed of trust. And so that's been a big issue. And I think the relief fund was really hugely important, I think, in advancing the ball.
Terrific. Logan, how are you doing on getting people vaccinated against the coronavirus?
Excellent question. We are actually doing extremely well because of our senior center. We haven't had our seniors in person during the pandemic, but we have been engaging them in the virtual. As a matter of fact, we just did a meeting with United Way yesterday, and they were asking about our senior center. And to our knowledge, we are receiving feedback that we have the most active seniors via the virtual format than any other senior center. And I say that because our ability to stay connected with them, when I received a call a few weeks ago and they said, Logan, we're going to give you 80 slots for vaccinations. Can you get us a list in 24 hours? We had a waiting list. I'm getting chills just saying it because Charlie mentioned it earlier on in this call, my ability to, I guess, track some of the best talent. My team truly is the best. And I tell them every single opportunity I get that they really do the work. They just allow me to speak about it. I'm just a spokesperson. And you can't manufacture what happens. So they got vaccinated. All 80 of our seniors on our list got vaccinated a few weeks ago at Salesianum. And next week, I believe it's the 18th, they will be getting their second dose, which will, once they get that done, and then our staff gets ours done, we'll be able to bring them back into the building. Because right now we're at about a 25% participation rate virtual. And we know, kids, adults, seniors, anybody, we need that human interaction. We need to be around each other. So, I don't need to tell anybody that, but we did a great job in making sure they got vaccinated.
Terrific.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So Logan or Charlie, but I think Westminster's question is, so what can we do? Obviously money is always needed. And there are certainly organizations that have far more dollars to expend than we do. And of course, in the midst of the pandemic, it's kind of hard to do one-on-one tutoring, mentoring, relationship development. Yet here we are with tons of energy, tons of desire to be of help. What can we do? How can we be deployed to make a difference?
So when Joe Biden visited with us on election day, he pulled me to the side and he had a special relationship with my grandfather that goes back to the 60s. And he said, Logan, I'm gonna tell you something. He said, one day, he said something about keep the faith. And he said, no, my mother told me to spread the faith. So what we're asking you is spread the word about what we are doing. Every other Monday, we do a lunch and learn, and it's virtual, obviously during the pandemic. We used to do it every Monday in person. And we were averaging before the pandemic hit about 30 people every Monday coming to listen to the presentation that you just heard, tour the warehouse, tour the neighborhood. We had people flying from across the country to come hear about the work that we're doing. And we know that the more awareness that people, the more people that are aware about the work we're doing, the more support that we'll get in a total variety of resources, not just financial. So the biggest thing for us is just creating awareness. So we can follow up with all of you and send you invites to our lunch and learns. As I stated at the end of the presentation, we also have committees that you might want to sign up for, which you can follow up. And then there are volunteer opportunities as well. Not as many as we would, in the pre-COVID world, but I would say, if I had to prioritize them, the first thing would be to, invite folks to our lunch and learns every other Monday. And then Charlie, you might have some thoughts as well, as you probably know this group better than I do.
Well, Sue, let me just make a mention, give a plug for the Neighborhood Assistance Act, 50% income tax credit. For those of you who are not familiar with it, contributions to organizations like REACH or Eastside Charter or Friendship House, for example, organizations that work in low-income communities are eligible for, as I say, a 50% tax credit against your Delaware income tax liability. So that means that a $2,500 contribution, your net after-tax cost could be as low as $750. So I'm just going to leave you with that teaser. If anybody wants more information about that, I'll be happy to provide it. But thanks, Sue, so much.
It's legit. It's legit and it's real. Last year, every year, the state, because of one of our advisory board members, it's now up to $1 million in tax credits. And this is available to all nonprofits. Our 3 nonprofits took up about 50% of those tax credits last year. So, we encourage our supporters that if you want to make a contribution, that you hit that floor of $2,500 if you have the means to do so. And it has been very beneficial to our supporters, but mostly beneficial to our community that, gets to reap the benefits of it.
Sue, thank you so much for.
Logan.
Yes.
I missed something in the presentation. We've been past the, I know exactly where the teen warehouse is, and I know the vacant lots that are across the street currently. And you mentioned a land swap with Habitat for Humanity. And I know that Habitat is built right within a couple of blocks of where you are in the past. But what I missed was what was it that you folks are planning to build right across the street from the warehouse?
Yeah, so the warehouse itself is a former middle school, charter school. So the gymnasium we have isn't really conducive to recreation, sports, not for teenagers at least. So we'd like to build some type of recreational facility, like a turf dome or something, where our teens could really take advantage of that right across the street from all of the other services that we have at the warehouse.
Okay, thank you. There was a lot of information flying there, and I missed what was getting built across the street.
No, trust me, I understand it, and thank you for asking that.
Can we get a copy or electronically of your presentation? Because there's so much information, it's hard to digest it all. A lot of good work going on. Thank you for all of it.
Yeah, I'd be happy. What I'll do is I'll follow up and send you a presentation and some other materials, so you have them at your fingertips, like the video. I have Charlie, I have a 1-pager of the NAA tax credit. I can send that as well for folks. And then I can send the invite for the lunch and learn. So I'll get that out to you as soon as I can.
Great.
That would be great.
I got a 4-year-old I have to try to put to bed tonight.
Good luck.
We have the opportunity to put those pieces in the Weekly Word, and then of course some more comprehensive articles in the Chimes, not the next one because that deadline has passed. But we've also recorded this evening's program. And so that recording will be available on the Westminster YouTube channel, so that if you want an opportunity to kind of revisit what was covered tonight live, you'll have the opportunity to see that as well.
Well, thank you all for being here. This is, again, I love being around you. You're a great group of people, and very thoughtful and considerate and passionate, and your commitment to the community goes without saying. So, and lastly, I know we mentioned it at the beginning of this, but if you have time tomorrow, my panel is at 11:30. It's 11:30 to 12:30 at the Yale Philanthropy Conference. and they have shattered the record of attendees. The last time I checked, there's over 1,200 people that will be attending. So it should be a nice event. And, you know, I'll be on the panel with some other national leaders around community work. So I'm looking forward to it.
And the link to that event is in the Weekly Word. So if you check your email, Westminster members, you'll find that the announcement of tonight's program was in there, and also the link to the Yale conference tomorrow that features Logan. So just click on the link and register, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all for being here. So grateful for your time and energy and commitment, Logan, and it's really exciting and engaging. Charlie, we know how dedicated and committed you have been to this even before Reach Riverside was born. So we thank you for all that you have done to move this forward as well. Thanks to everybody, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
All right.
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
Right.
Thank you.